episode 56. Technically, you could say it's episode 57, but it's part 2 of episode 56, our interview with Tad Powers. I'm Casey Honigbaum here with the Mound Visit podcast, joined as always by my co-host, the 15-year Major League veteran and all-star Jason Grilli, closer for the Pirates. You all know him. Thank you so much for tuning in. We want to remind you, before we get started here, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Mound Visit on YouTube if you like to watch the show. If you just like to listen, you can do that wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on social media at Mound Visit Pod. This is part 2 of an interview that we had with one of Grilli's friends that he's met along the way. Played 13 years, managed, coached, played 13 years in the Australian Baseball League, has a lot of other stuff going on that we kind of get into. This is part 2 of that interview. So if you missed part 1, make sure you go back and watch that one and kind of get caught up, because there's a lot of awesome stuff that we touched on, not only with Tad's career and his baseball journey, but a lot diving into a lot of the game today, and touching on some of the current topics in Major League Baseball and in baseball in general. So we really hope you enjoy that, and we hope you enjoy this segment as well. Let us know what you think. Drop a comment, and we'll see you at the end of the video.
Well, guess what? In case you're gonna love this, I'm 58 years old. In my lifetime, starting in like Legion through high school and junior college and minor leagues and winter ball in Australia until I was 38. And, just playing on men's league teams, 4,000 innings, 4,000, no surgeries,
Wow.
No surgeries.
Really? Wow.
And I can still throw a baseball. And, I had Fred Peterson on my show one time. You remember, the science guy, Peterson, the pitching coach. He was with the Brewers a bunch of years.
The name rings a bell. Yeah.
He's one of the Tom House guys, Jason.
Okay.
Okay. You sure it's not from the Gamma?
Rick Peterson.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I had him on my show, and I'm like, dude, 4,000 innings, no surgery. He's like, yeah, because you were like a Toyota Camry, and that guy over there, he's a NASCAR, and that one over there, he's an IndyCar, and they're going to go real hard, and they're going to need they're going to break. And we're going to fire you up every day, and you're just going to keep going. You're a Toyota Camry.
You're a cruiser, man. You were just a cruisers as opposed to the racers. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's the gamma rays. We talk about the no-fly zone of where you're located here. all the cell phone coverage is a problem, but maybe there's some frequency in that air of good healing, and good vibes that kept.
Well, I spent a lot of time in the water over my years between Australia and here. I'm a surfer. I think that
I was going to ask.
I'm healthy. I'm connected to the universe, and I'm somewhat fit for a person 58 years old, and I can still go out and throw a baseball, which makes me happy. And not with the fast twitch that I used to do it with. That stuff goes away, Jason, as you're finding out now.
Yeah,
slowly
I'm
but
built
surely.
for
I
comfort,
could dunk a basketball
not
until I was
speed.
like 48, and then it just stops. Now I went out the other day. I can barely touch the rim. I remember the first time you touched the rim, like in junior high or something, where you just touched it. I'm there.
Yeah, I like my Achilles, dude. Everybody's like, "Oh, you should come to the court and play basketball." I go, "I tore one Achilles already. I don't need to tear the other one. Sorry."
No.
And then I see that same guy that asked me to go. He's like, he's in a boot next week. I'm like, see.
Oh, no.
The part that I feel is like when you jump high, you land, and the landing is hard now, man.
Yeah.
I don't know how I used to jump that high and land and not feel it, but
Got to get the right Jordans, man. You got to invest in those Jordans. The
I
Air
feel
Jordans.
it now, though. 2 years on you, but all these things, they just start creeping up,
Oh man, I love it. Yeah. I it's funny you mentioned
Nugenics. This is where we break into. This is brought to you by Nugenics, one of our proud sponsors.
That's testosterone, pretty much,
well,
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a healer. That's a healer.
You mentioned those. Right. You mentioned those some of those other guys being kind of like the NASCAR to your Camry. We have this segment on our show that we do. It's called the Stupid Statistic of the Week. We usually do it kind of right at the beginning of the show, but I think this is like a perfect time to bring it in. For our stupid statistic, of the week this week, I wanted to talk about one of those NASCARs, Mason Miller. Have you gotten to watch Mason Miller pitch at all in the Oakland
Yeah,
A's?
I love it.
Okay, so
I coined this.
Go
phrase.
ahead.
You
Go
guys
ahead.
can use it if you want to use this phrase. He went
Okay.
from D3 to 103. He's Mason
There
Miller.
you go. I love that. I like that a lot. That might be the intro. I can see the clip already. I like that. But before his previous outing, because I had this queued up for our episode this week, he had an outing where he gave up a run. It should have been an unearned run, whatever. We're not going to talk about it. But before that, his last 13 outings, 15 and a third innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 runs, 2 walks, 33 strikeouts. So there's your stupid statistics of the week. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, this is a guy, like you mentioned, goes from D3 to 103, right? He's still pitching against big leaguers. Like, it's insane what he's doing. So I had to shine some light on that. We actually had one of his God, we're making a lot of callbacks to former guests on this episode. We had Joey Campagna, who was on with us, and he trains with him in the off season, and he was talking about how crazy it is to catch his pens exactly. So Mason Miller, he is fun to watch, but it's like we were talking about all day. I was talking with some of my buddies who are big baseball fans, and shout out my friend Jack Powers, who goes, I love watching him pitch, but man, I feel like he's due for a Tommy John soon, and that's what we all think, and it's just like you're waiting for that shoe to drop almost. You know what I mean?
Well, it's same with Skeens. I
right.
Love him.
I know.
And let him go and let him get the no the other day. But it's to me, if you're over 100, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just going to happen, and just be ready for it. Be ready to take a year and a half off. Probably come back throwing harder.
Well, here's the thing, though. I will say, after you get hurt, the preparation and the mental. The mental fortitude it takes to get back and to know that is extreme, man, because it's almost like your superpowers are ripped away. And I'm gonna sidebar here with mental health and just staying with it. Recently we just had the PGA tournament here, and Scotty Scheffler, who got arrested.
That was nuts.
Isn't that nuts?
Crazy.
But I'm just telling you, like, this is the stuff. I'm sidebarring to that because I go, this is the stuff that people don't speak enough about with the mental, like, what separates people. Like, what I played baseball, I'm coaching, and I would have made it. You hear all that. It's between the ears, man. It's the mental fortitude, the drive. Because if Scheffler can come back from a jail cell and make a run. And to jump back in after that adversity, I mean, I don't know where I would be. To sit there and just be in another dimension to go, I really appreciate swinging my 9-iron right now. But again, coming back from these injuries that these guys are expected to likely have, the mental fortitude, man, I think there is a thing to see how much you love the game to come back from all that adversity and pain of the game ripping from you. And I've been there myself several times where you're like, I got to do that over again. And if guys are having repeated Tommy Johns, it's not even just pitchers. I mean, some of these position players are ripping their arms off because they're like throwing 105 across the timing.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
So, it really is.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. There's, they're getting down there. The average major leaguer runs to first at 4.5 now. I know they say it's 4.3, but go actually fucking get on a clock and time these guys because nobody really runs hard. You got time. You don't need to throw it 105 miles an hour across the infield.
Well, the ball always beats the runner. The ball always, is fast.
Even if you throw it 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't miles an hour, can you?
There are some cheaters out there, though. There are some flyers that are fun to watch, man. And like I said, I go back to, I hope that the game eventually syncs up to where we go, because there's all these eras, and we're in an era right now of time and hard and farther and all this metrics, right? Just the metrics phase of this game we're in. There'll be another one after this, but I think it's going to always sync up, and I I appreciate how the player always morphs, right? I mean, if guys are throwing harder, it's amazing that the hitters are adjusting to that. Like you said, whether they're, these guys have to throw a pitching machine out there. If the players are going to get hurt because they're throwing hard, what coach is like, I got to throw hard? They're going to run through. They're going to run through the coaching staff. I don't want to throw BP because I'm not going to be able to wipe my ass like a Tommy John.
Well, think about 142 games in the minor leagues. Those guys threw a batting practice probably 130 of those days, and this is for 100 years.
Yes.
The pitching coach, the manager, the hitting coach, between them, they handled all that. And if they couldn't, they probably didn't get hired.
Right?
It's
nuts.
It blows me away. There's certain things that I can't imagine that they toyed with, and that's one of them.
So can you tell us, and for the people listening, just to finish out here, because I've spoken to people who've played in Australia, but I haven't talked to anyone who's played in Australia as long as you have. So I want to know, one, it's kind of a two-parter, but why did you choose to go and play there? There had to have been obviously something that drew you to it, and what kept you coming back? Because
that's a really easy question.
Beautiful
for me. I got sent down there in '89, the very first year of the Australian Baseball League. I was in the minor leagues with Cleveland. They sent me down there. I was fortunate enough to be on a team that was just kind of haphazard. The owner bamboozled the rest of the league into giving him a license, and it was his brainchild, even though he didn't have money. And so I went over there and was a part of a really crazy first year of the Australian Baseball League. This is 1989, Casey. So imagine back then, baseball cards was a huge thing. And I collected as a kid.
That was Griffey's rookie year, right? That was big
upper deck.
Yeah.
They weren't going to do baseball cards for the Australian Baseball League, and I didn't understand it. It's the first year, inaugural year. What do you know? Well, they said to me, they've never had cricket cards. Why would we have baseball cards? I'm like, because we're going to take them to America and sell the crap out of them. So I started this company called Futera, Futera. Look it up. It's the #1 soccer card in the world now, 35 years later. We sold the crazy cards after doing baseball for 2 years. We got every license in the in Australia. We did cricket, Aussie rules, rugby league. We even did the Association of Surfing Professionals. I got Kelly Slater on a
wow, that's awesome.
When he was 19, it's worth thousands. All that stuff. I created an industry on a continent. They didn't ever have collectibles. They didn't have sports cards. And I was like, well, we're going to take them back to America and sell the crap out of them. That's what we did. Me and my partner. I was in the Cal League. He was in the New York Penn League. My team would put me in buses and put me in San Jose for 4 days where there was 28 card shops. And I'd take my baseball card in there, and I'm on the top when I opened it up. And I'd tell the story, and they're like, oh, my God, I got to have some of these. We sold everything we printed in about 2 months.
Wow.
We put Australian baseball on the map. Go back and look at Futera. I just do a little research on Futera because we ended up having licenses to every sport in the country. They had sport shops, collectible shops. They started coming out with catalogs to price the cards. We created an industry on a continent. So I had to keep going back. Number one.
That.
But I kept going back too because as long as somebody gives you a contract, Jason, you know this, come over for 7 months, run our club, be the coach, run our junior development, and play, I'm going to do it until my arm falls off. So I did it for a total of 14 years. After 1 year of that ABL, we had sold so many cards, that team wasn't going to exist, so we bought the license. I own part of the Sydney Wave of the Australian Baseball League, and I'm 24 years old. And so I'm a player manager and part owner of the team in the Australian Baseball League.
This is what's incredible, though, because now you just get in my mind because the bridge of the gap of I won't really get into it, but all the NIL stuff and transitioning of what these kids now have the advantage to do, man, is insane. right? What you were doing while you were playing, I was doing the same thing. Guys were like, Grill, what are you doing? I go, I know this uniform could come off at any point.
Day. Any day.
Whether I'm ripping my arm off for my team, it's off the bone, but I'm still trying to throw, or they just don't want me anymore. I got to survive. But after you become a normal human being, your superpowers, it's like Superman with the uniform on. That's what I felt like. I'm like, oh my God, these people are just raging when you're out there, and you feel that energy, right? And then it's like, what if that's gone? What do you do? What do you do? So you had that thought. You had that thought while you were playing, because I know you're a good businessman too, and we really didn't dive into that, but I love what you're doing to keep sports and communities thriving with sports renovation management, man. Just touch upon that. Give yourself a plug on that, because there's so much we could talk about, man. This is an interesting guy, my friend Ted Powers here.
Well, there's 2,800 complexes around the country. 98% of them lose money for the community every year because they're not managed properly. The only ones that make money are privately owned, and they usually put a fence around them. They charge a fee, and they got a restaurant inside of it. It's the only place that you can actually, get a drink or food. That's what makes them profitable. Most of the places in the country are run by the city. They'll have a complex for 30 years. They lose an average of $100,000 per field. It's an 8-field complex. That's $800,000 a year. We've been doing it 30 years. Now we have massive repairs that we need to do. Everything's outdated. We need to go green. We need LED. We need turf. We're using too much water. And it's costing the community $800,000 a year. We've been doing it 30 years. Do a little math on that. Then do a little math on the fact that it's 98% of and everywhere you've ever gone, you've seen that 8-field complex, that 4-field complex, the little clover leaf. They're all losing every one of them, especially if they're in a cold weather state. Well, that's where we come in. We come in and get some green money, renovate the thing, put a fence around it, put a restaurant inside that sucker, run some real events 365 days of the year, and then it can become a profitable business where you're also serving the community. And it involves bringing in the kids that don't get to do it because their families can't afford it. So we have some nonprofit aspects of this because I want to see the kid that is the most talented but doesn't have any money, and they're doing this shit too. So that's what sports renovation management's all about. Giving kids better opportunities with better facilities, but also giving access to everybody. Because let's face it, Jason, it's a pay or play game now. When we were kids, did you play for high school baseball? No. You didn't pay. I didn't pay to play high school sports.
I'm paying for my kids to play. I got a registration fee for my kids to play in school. I'm like, what is going on?
And then summer. You got 3 sets of fees, 3 sets of unis, 3 sets of travel schedules you're paying for. I know it's $10,000 a year per kid on average.
Jeez.
Mm-hmm. So yes, it's a huge.
Case, you better start saving up, buddy.
$2 billion a year.
You get that side hustle. Get that side hustle going.
I was gonna say I'm nowhere close to even thinking about having kids, but now it sounds like I should start socking away some money now in case my kid wants to play baseball, which he's going to. So there you go.
There you
he
go.
or she.
It's all worth
baseball.
it.
There you go.
It is, man. You know what they say? They do say if you play a sport or you do an extracurricular activity, I don't want to single out anybody that's in band or theater. When you have something else that you're driven to do, you make a better business person. And those are the kids that are going to make the most money because they're driven, and that's why businesses want to hire people who are in sports or in extracurriculars, because to manage your time and to be driven and to be good at something, you have to be in order to do the first thing, you have to be a good student in order to be a semi-good athlete, or vice versa. So, Tad, man, we've covered some great topics, man. It's always fun talking to you. I've been on your show. Now you've been on our show. Great Mound visit.
There's a lot to talk about. Hey, Casey, when you look up that full background, you're going to go, what the hell? Because I did some crazy shit, international scouting, and then...
I know. I was reading up on it. I was going to say, I agree with Grilli. We haven't touched on almost 3/4 of your whole your whole biography, so it's perfect. We'll have to have you back on.
Entrepreneur,
left-handed. You were left-handed, right?
No, I'm right-handed. But I
right-handed.
I had to go to Fremunda at some point. I'm low 3/4 naturally.
See, I feel like
you end up bending over and it's coming out off the dirt.
I just feel like the way you talk, it's like you're a left-hander stuck in a right-handed body. You know what I mean?
That could be. I'm a surfer, so that gives me a different perspective. Like I said, I'm connected to the universe in a different way than most people.
Yep.
So yeah,
love that.
I am almost like a left-hander. Plus, I've always thought out of the box. I knew that I'm going to stay in this game. I got to just figure out how to do it, right? So I'm a scout. I'm going to do media. I'm going to teach it. You know, I'm going to take tours to Australia. I've had a couple hundred kids I've helped get into college just because it's, you know, I know them and they've been in my programs. It's like, all right, I'll call this coach. And I'm doing that now with the Australians. I got 8 of them in this last year that are going to start in August. So still helping Aussies get into college. I'm about giving people opportunities because I wasn't given a bunch myself, Jason and Casey. Nobody handed me one, and I know you know what that's like. You got to earn those opportunities. Yeah. And every step of the way, I feel like I had to do that. And that meant knocking on doors in San Jose when my team gave me $11 a day to go, you know, on the road to play for 4 games. And I would come back with $6,000 in cash because every place that I went bought those cards from me. Every place.
See what I mean?
Nobody.
I love that. Well, I love ending off on the topic of cards because I'm a big baseball card collector myself, so I had it right on my
what do you got?
One of my favorites here. I'll show you this. This is Tim LaCastro. And the reason that this is special is I played baseball at Ithaca College. Tim LaCastro is our that's right. Though Tim LaCastro is our big league rep from Ithaca College, from D3 to the big leagues. And I got his autograph card, which I think is super cool. I bought it right when he made the show.
Send me the address. I'll send you guys some autographed Futura cards because I got stacks of them, as you can imagine. And
I love it. We'll take you up on that.
Look at Futura, what we did, man. It was nuts. And I was like 24. We ended up selling it to Crazy Cards, which is Pokemon, Digimon, right?
Yeah.
But Futura is still a company that's located in Dubai, and it's the #1 soccer card in the world.
Unbelievable.
Futura, same freaking company. And I sold it at 25. Me and my partner got 250 grand each, was a lot of money.
You should have a yacht next to one of those big-ass aircraft carriers right outside.
I should have kept 1% of the current Futura is what I should have done. I'm a fucking idiot. Right? I had no financial advisors. I had no partners other than the guy that he was Forrest Gump meets Rain Man. You know, like, that's who my partner was.
Well, you see, you'd be a great topic. We need to have you back on for an NIO summit here when we do all that.
Yes,
so,
sir.
man,
I'd love to talk about that.
Yep, buddy. Well, listen, man. Epic episode. If you didn't know Tad Powers is, you got a little taste. It's not even a full gamut. You know, he has his own podcast called The Sandlot.
Hey, it's a radio show. I'm on Fox Sports.
My bad.
Boom. Side gig.
My bad. Well, we ain't at your level yet, but we're trying to get there. We're trying to get
on our
there.
way. That's
I got 11 years of doing this, over 300 shows, and I'll tell you, Jason, I sucked at it the first year. I was like, it was live. I was on live radio. Don't do live radio ever, by the way. You want to butcher some shit. You want to show your...
Yeah, just all the mistakes.
I had one of my sons, year 2. I'm still doing live. He's sitting out there in the outside of the booth where the control guy is, and he says to me, "Dad, you said 17 times in that 15 minutes."
Yeah.
And from that point on, I was trying to not say or
They humbled you.
Yeah. Dude. So
I love it.
You learn a lot, and you get better at it, you know?
Absolutely. Wow. Well, that's what we're hoping to do here on this show. So hopefully everybody that was that tuned in enjoyed, and we definitely enjoyed bringing it to you. We can't wait to talk to Tad more in the future. So Tad, thank you again so much for taking the time.
We'll have you on,
Casey and Mr. Grilli, thanks so much for having me on a Mound visit. You know?
All right, that is part 2 of our interview with Tad Powers. I mean, we said it. We're going to have him back on because we're only scratching the surface with some of the things that we talked to him about. So look forward to that in the future, and look forward to some exciting news for the Mound Visit podcast. I've mentioned it a couple times, but we have some exciting stuff coming. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We're excited to bring that to you. But for this week's episode, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, Mound Visit. If you like to watch us on YouTube, you could find us there. And if you just like to listen, you could do that wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us as well on social media at Mound Visit Pod. Thank you so much for watching, for supporting, and we'll see you next week.